if you're going into aerospace engineering, then like 3D CAD courses, or what I found helpful was robotics. So that takes me into extracurriculars. So I joined a lot of STEM clubs, like about once again mentioned Mu Alpha Theta, or like computer science clubs, and then robotics or chemistry. Just like, let's say there's chemist or chemical engineering, then join a chemistry club because that's most aligned with your field. So another thing is seek research opportunities, even in internships or with professors in your nearby state school. What I found helpful was just asking my dad, like, hey, at your company, do you have any need for like interns? And then if you have any friends like working at ARM or Google or anything like that, then just go out there and put yourself out there to get experience. And then with professors, just asking your teachers if they went to nearby schools. Like for me, I live in Austin, so I asked my teachers who went to UT Austin if they knew any professors at their school, and they just gave me like a bunch of names and I reached out to them. And then also try developing like your own mini projects. Like I'm not saying do all of these things, just these are the options you have. Developing your own mini projects, like what I did was a sensor circuit, which would just sense movement in our robot and robotics. And if I'm talking specifically for aerospace engineering, what I found the most, I guess, enlightening part of my extracurricular was robotics. I was involved in First Robotics, which is this huge organization across the US. Um, it involves different sub teams like programming, design, manufacturing, and electronics. I was mainly involved in design and electronics, which helped me develop a passion for aerospace engineering. And then career outlook, overall engineering, you can apply to any company you want, really, because there's so many job opportunities. But aerospace specifically, a few like the top companies would be NASA, SpaceX, Boeing, Amazon, JPL, and then all national defense programs, or just any like aeronautics company. And then once again, for electrical, computer, chemical, nuclear, and the plethora of engineering fields, there's like ARM, Google, Microsoft, AMD, Tesla, and just more companies to go with it. But that's it for me for the small engineering blurb.
I can add on for extracurriculars. Freya mentioned doing projects. I think for coding, that like just being able to bootstrap yourself and learn stuff on YouTube and just applying that to real world issues is by far the best way to learn how to code if you want to start early, which if you're doing computer science, you should start early. Um, so for me, whenever I was like a freshman or something in high school, I was just starting to learn how to program like JavaScript, HTML, CSS, making basic websites and stuff like that. Um, One of our neighbors was like the head of some dog shelter or something, and they had a really old website from like 2005 or something. And um, like I asked her if I can make them a new website, and through that I learned a lot of the ways how to how to set up a server, how to set up a domain name, code the website and everything. Um, and I was kind of getting two birds in one stone there because that's also something that's really great for my resume, like a volunteer experience too.
Yeah, so I guess we can move on to any questions that y'all might have. Just feel free to unmute yourself and ask.
Did you have a slide for business by any chance?
I'm gonna get a dedicated
Can you,
slide.
can you show the slide that you just showed before?
Oh, yeah. Wait, is this the one that you wanted to see? I don't think we have like one for business.
Oh, okay. No, that's fine. I was wondering, because I'm not personally planning on going into the STEM field. I was like thinking somewhere in like the business, like I'd like to major in business, but I'm not really sure what. So I wasn't sure if you had something like that. But
Yeah.
that's
In
fine.
that case,
I'm a
Um,
economics major, so if you have any questions, I might be able to answer it. But at Tulane, the economics program is in the liberal arts school, but there is a decent amount of overlap between the classes that you take.
you could also try going to the main room because that's, I think, where some of the not so sure majors are. And I don't think we have a panelist for business in here today.
Yeah, I was gonna
What
say.
about for the NASA? If your ambition is to get, is it good to get a engineering, aeronautical engineering, or
Could you please repeat the first part of your question?
what kind of, like to do the undergrad courses if you want to work for NASA?
So for your undergraduate major, if you want to work for NASA, you can do really just any engineering. If you're more interested in designing the spacecraft, so let's take the NASA rover, right? So if you're interested in designing that rover, then it would be aerospace engineering. If you're interested in the electrical schematics of that rover, then you would do electrical engineering. If you're interested in how the data is processed, it would be data analysis or just any like, so what I like to draw the connection between is like the NASA rover and robotics, right? Each of them would have different sub teams, and you can really take any major or any coursework related to engineering to end up in NASA.
Okay, I have a question real quick. So during your essays for college, did you guys relate kind of your major and like STEM related stuff in your essay? Did you talk about that, or more like of a personal story?
Okay, Brad, I can take this really quickly though. I want to talk, I think Jathan is doing a business major, so I don't know if you already went to the other room, but like, you should go ask him those questions. So for your essay question, I think for my comment up essay, I wrote about like one of my hobbies, which has like nothing to do with STEM at all. But I think in a lot of like, there are lots of different essay questions, and most of the time they had one about either your major or like what you liked academically or something like that. And like, yeah, I did use math for that. But it's a mix. It's a pretty big mix. Like, in terms of your personal, like Common App essay, you can choose what you want to do that about. I don't think, either way, I don't think it's going to be better or worse. But for supplements, like there's going to be like the randomest stuff, like who do you look up to, or like your favorite, I don't know, food, or like big essays about like, either STEM things or like non-STEM things. I don't know if I actually answered your question.
Yeah, to add to that, the essays are really just there for the college to know who you are. So one of their questions, most of the colleges that I applied to, one of the questions they asked is why this college or why this major at this college. So that's where you would kind of talk about what got you interested in this major you intended or you applied with. And in the other essays, what I focused on was just different parts of me because a lot of the colleges right now are looking for interdisciplinary students or fields or interests. So you don't have to focus on just your major. If there is an opportunity to talk about your major, go for it. But just overall, try to make yourself a holistic person for the process.
Going off of what Freya said, yeah, I think like they want to see you pursue your passions, but it doesn't, your passion doesn't just have to be your passion.
Sorry. So I was just wondering so let's say I'm a rising senior and I'm applying and to colleges right now. So let's say I didn't submit any sort of exams. So I didn't I didn't submit my AP exam scores or my SAT scores, but I have decent extracurriculars. Is that okay? Like, would that look bad? Would that reflect bad on me as an applicant when applying?
Like as in you've taken APs but didn't submit the scores on them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably say it's better off to submit them because if you don't, they're going to assume that you failed them, if that makes sense. So like even if your scores are not all fives, it's better to submit some score than no scores. Because like what I've seen is that in the majority of cases, it can only help you. Like it doesn't
Okay.
really hurt you. So like you're definitely better off. And like the reason why a lot of schools made it test optional is that some kids don't have access to take those tests or have the ability to take those tests for those resources. But if you have the ability to and you have taken it, not submitting it hurts you. But submitting it can only help you. Like that's the way that I see it, at least. Just that like if you're in an area where every single one of your peers is taking it and like you're not socioeconomically disadvantaged, like you should be submitting it, if that makes sense.
So if you scored below a 3, are you saying it's still okay to submit it?
Like, are you talking about selectively not submitting certain scores?
I'm sorry, could you, I'm a little confused on what you just said. What?
Like, are you talking about submitting only certain AP scores, like only the ones you did good on? Is that like what your question is? Or is it
No,
not?
so I initially asked, it's okay if it's like, I didn't get my exam scores yet, so I don't know, but I'm just preparing for the worst. So like in case I didn't, like if I did really bad on them and I didn't submit the scores, but you said that would look bad. But like let's say I did score below a 3 on my exams. Are you saying it's still okay? Is it okay to still submit those?
I'm honestly not sure how like the selecting certain AP scores process works. Like, I don't know if that's just like a blanket thing where you submit all of them or don't submit all of them. So I don't know about selectively submitting AP scores. I've only seen that for like SATs. But I'd say if you've taken a test, submit it. If it's not like an SAT subject test, because those are not required. But the AP scores, because those are classes, they typically want the scores. And that helps you get out of courses in college too, I think.
Right, yeah. Like I did pretty good in the classes itself, so I wasn't sure if submitting them or not would make a big difference.
Yeah, not entirely sure. Freya or Obey.
I think for submitting your AP scores, you send all of them to
Yeah.
whichever college you choose. So I don't think you have the option to select which ones. So let's say you got like a 3 or 2 in like French, and then your major is like in engineering or
Yeah.
like business, then I feel like you're okay in that area. Um, and for SAT, I would recommend, like, especially if you're a rising senior or doing the college app process right now, I think it's more beneficial for you to send your SAT or ACT scores because I think the testing centers, at least around me, have all opened up. But during like the early stages of COVID, that's when it was hard for people to take tests, and like there were just testing centers being canceled. So that's when I feel like the test optional thing would have been more open to being just, okay, I guess you don't have to submit it.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
I've heard there was somebody looking for very specific information about your extracurricular. You think you'll be able to address that? And there's a lot of hand raised. Sorry.
Yeah, I did see that. What type of extracurriculars like do you need? In terms of research, I did do so like I reached out to like my local university and I said I'm looking to do like some sort of math research project over the summer. Do you have anything for me? And I reached out to like a professor that like one of my friends knew, and that professor connected me to another professor, and I just did like kind of like a math research project, and that was my 11th, 12th grade summer. And in terms of extracurriculars, I'm not sure. I feel like, wait, where's that slide? I feel like everything on this slide is just like most of the stuff that I did.
Is the next question tailored to all of us from Himani?
In general, I feel that having, like, at least when I was going to high school, well-rounded was still the thing that people wanted us to focus on. And I think that that's changed a lot in the past like 5 to 6 years, is that everyone's now like, you got to have like that one thing that you're really good at. So like for me, at least, it was like I started like an organization, and I feel like it's become a trope now, but at the time it was less of a trope than I think it was or is now. But like it was starting like it was an innovation event that I had done with like a couple of companies in the area that we hosted and had like over like 500 kids come. So like having like those kind of things where you show your leadership and your dedication to say like your whatever major you want to go into or whatever area you want to go into, they're just looking for 1 to 5 things that showed like demonstrated community interest, leadership, and dedication towards what you want to do. And having like that one thing that sort of central idea that you frame everything around, that's what's really important, right? So like say like you're really involved or like you really like doing certain things in engineering, you're like building out cool stuff. Say you did an engineering project that took you to the nationals for like TARC or for some market challenge, but then also you were helping build out engineering projects within the community. That shows that your ability to not only apply that towards stuff that's recognizable through medals, but stuff that's also recognizable within your community. And so having stuff that you can talk about both ways, I think really helps you stand out. And so for me, that was that hackathon, as well as like coding projects. I'd interned like at Cisco and then another company before that. And like that kind of stuff in high school helps you stand out a little bit. But those research opportunities as well, there's so many that are out there for high school students. Like NIST has one, CAP is a really big one. That's the Navy lab. They run like a big engineering apprenticeship program. And so like that kind of stuff really helps you out a lot in terms of standing out, because getting your name on a research paper as a high schooler is something that really helps you stand out, in addition to like awards and stuff like that. So like that's the big areas that I'd say to focus on.
Yeah, so for me, what I think stood out was I was involved in the STEM Advocacy Conference of Texas. And I had like the position of like Secretary for Government Affairs. So my job was reading up on like the state senators and House of Representatives and just kind of setting up meetings with our organization and these state representatives and kind of advocating and pushing for STEM advocacy bills. So I think that's one of the things that stood out. And it speaks to what Ratan said about reaching a different or higher level in something you're passionate about. I think that stands out. And then there's also just finding or founding an organization that you feel strongly for. So for me, it was art therapy, which was something I started. So if there's anything that you feel like you see like a business plan for or something that you're really passionate about, then go ahead and just step out there and create something new or form an organization.
I'm sure Abe can talk about this as well. Like Amy and the big, like there's like competitive like things you can do in high school where if you do them and you're really good at them, it helps you stand out. But like only you have to be like really smart to do those. So like for me, Amy wasn't a good route to go, but for other people, it can be a good route to go. So like it depends whether or not like you're best suited towards taking tests or advancing to that highest level, or spreading yourself out a little bit and exploring different areas, but combining them into that like central idea. As long as you back everything with like, here's the impact I want to make in the world, and here's how what I've done, it's going to help me take advantage of that in the future. That's the best way to frame your college application, at least in my eyes, and that's what I was told as well.
I think for me with Tulane specifically, so I had the GPA and the SAT to get in, and it was above whatever percentile they tell you, like the 50 or 75th to get. But I think the big thing, like with Tulane especially, and I think this is true for mostly like smaller, not that Tulane is small, but like smaller private colleges, and I think it honestly probably is the same for big schools. I said it before in the big meeting, just doing research and figuring out the programs that you really want to do at those schools. So for my Why Tulane essay, it was optional, but I wrote about like 500 or 600 words or something, like different programs that they had. And I think that really set me apart, because I know of people who scored higher than me and either didn't do that or wrote like not as thorough of an essay, and they didn't get in.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about what I did. I think so. Kind of following what Rothan said, I think I tried, or I tried to be well-rounded. But the thing with me is that like I kind of just did those activities anyways because I wanted to. So I kind of just I did like different things and I stayed with most of them. And for my main one, like math, I think I just did like I tried to do like a lot of activities and in my essays, like I talked about like why I liked math and like it wasn't just like with most of these activities, I wasn't just like passively in them or just kind of signing up to do it. I was actually like doing stuff with it. Like with Math Circle, I think I went to one of their math tournaments, one or two of them. I did like the AMC for a while, Amy, like that research project. So like I think just like that, I remember what I was gonna say. Like in the context of my school, I don't like not a lot of people at my school knew about competition math or like did a lot of this stuff. So I think like in the context, I guess just in my general area, I feel like I was doing a lot more math specific stuff than other people. Okay. And I think somebody has another question in the chat.
It's about the AP score. So if you have your comp sci AP score and you don't think it's good, but you're also majoring in comp sci. If it's 3 or above, I think you're good to go. But if it's a 2 or a 1, I'd focus on showing computer science throughout your extracurriculars or your coursework.
Yeah, and I think a big thing that gets lost a lot is that like at the end of the day, like, the scores can only take you so far. Like I think looking back like 10 years, if you got a certain score with a certain GPA, and this still exists for some schools, like you're essentially guaranteed. Like they won't even, I guarantee you, they don't even read half those essays that come in. If you come in with like a certain SAT score and a certain GPA from a certain high school, they'll just admit you off the bat. Because what you'll see is that there'll just be like this blank line. Like if you guys have seen like what Naviance is, there's like this big college search, so they track all the admissions. And like, at least in my high school for UVA, which is like my big state university, for every single kid who had over like a 4.3 GPA, didn't matter what their SAT score was, didn't matter where they're coming from, what they're majoring in, just automatically in. Like it was this big line, just green all above, red all below. So like certain schools, GPA matters a lot more, but then overall, a certain score in AP test, like say you go and build out some crazy app that gets like 10,000 users, or like you win the congressional app challenge, you do some crazy stuff like that. I guarantee you they're going to look at that score and be like, wow, this person really excelled despite this. So like this shows that maybe they're not the best test taker, but they have the drive and the passion to get past that and do something that can change the world. And at the end of the day, they'd rather have people that can change the world than people that can get 5s on AP exams. Because anyone can get a 5 on an AP exam if they put in, 200 hours into it, right? But given the fact that you make an impact on the world, that matters a lot more. So I'd say like don't like stressing about one AP score. I remember like I was stressed about the most random stuff. Like there was like this whole like big thing when I was applying where one of my SAT scores didn't get sent through. I thought I was gonna get rescinded from Berkeley after I got in. And like literally like I spent a week and a half stressing that I was gonna get rescinded. I didn't tell my parents because I was like, my parents are gonna kill me if they found out that I'm gonna get rescinded. I emailed like the admissions office being like, oh my God, I'm so sorry this score didn't get sent through. Like it's fine, don't worry about it, don't even send it in. And I was like, wow. So like you realize like at a certain point, like they really care a lot more about what you're going to do as a person than those little scores on a piece of paper, right? So like I think that's the way that I look at it. So don't stress too much about like not submitting an AP score. Like you can't change it, right? Might as well accept it and then show that you're better than that, right? Like that's essentially what I say is the best thing to do.
Oh, there's a question for you, okay, in the chat.
I see it. Anyways, my research project, it was kind of, I don't want to say random, but like, I think like my professor told me like, I told him like I just did BC, so like something kind of with calculus. It was about like multivariable, well, not multivariable calculus. It was, I'm trying to remember what I called it. It was using the Fourier transform to model partial differential equations on like on Octave, and like like we built models of it and we used it at the end for like a mathematician did something recently with the Navier-Stokes with the Euler equations. We kind of took his work and we just plugged it into our modeler and saw what happened with the Navier-Stokes equations. And yeah, that's a really big like jumble of words, but like I didn't understand what that meant until I did it. So yeah, if you have something else specifically that you want to know, you can put it in the chat. And there's another question. Do you recommend getting a separate college counselor? What would they specifically do? I'm not sure.
The most recent question about the college counselor, I personally didn't get a college counselor, but I do know people that did get college counselors. What I heard was just two opposite sides of the spectrum. Some of them, the college counselor helped them like with nothing, and they didn't get into almost all their colleges. And then with others, the college counselors helped them edit their essays, make it better, and they got into good colleges. So if you feel like you have someone around you that could help you with the admissions process, then go with those people. But if you feel like you're not really sure going into this whole process, you really need someone who's like been through it before, or like a college counselor, then it's really just up to you and your like personal preference.
Yeah, and I'd even go.
This, I'm sorry, this is just a question about like if a person wants to finish his engineer aeronautical and then comes to US from India. Isn't that a big transition, you know, and still wants to work here?
Is your question asking like if they studied aeronautics in India and then they're moving here and just finding the jobs here?
Yeah, yeah.
It depends on if it's a government agency or if it's a corporate company, because for government, they would ask about citizenship or green card, or you have to like fit this certain criteria where if you were born in like a different country, then they'll check into your relatives and like how many connections you have abroad. So it does make it a little bit more challenging for the government, like defense and all of that. So for NASA, but if you go into SpaceX or like a corporate company, then I feel like it's a bit easier for jobs.
So it's more like a SpaceX and things like that they can do. And if they are still a citizen, they can still do that, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I'm just going to chime in because I did go to school in India and I worked here. So I'm sure you all know the process too. So you're right. The first thing, Priya, you're so right. For anything to do with defense and security, there will be a process where they'll check for your citizenship. And of course, the qualifications matter, right? I know you've done a lot of aerospace engineering and related stuff in India, but maybe the way they do in terms of processes and the way they think of technology may be a little different. Of course, you have a lot of opportunity to find out because they have so much information out there on their website. I think if you really do your research and maybe reach out to somebody who's existing already in NASA, I don't know what role you're looking at. Is it research, engineering, whatever role that is, right? Whether it is an astronaut, you probably will actually reach out to one of those people, because if you go on LinkedIn, you should be able to find a lot of these experts. And most often they're willing to actually answer your questions if you reach out to them via LinkedIn. So I think I would recommend that you ask the resources in that organization directly, because they will have an HR or admin or actually the professionals. And most of the professionals, I think, that will respond to you. So don't hesitate to go ask them and see what it takes, what kind of process, what kind of technology, because it's so vast. NASA is so vast. You're going in electrical, electronic, mechanical, you don't know what, right? You're going to go in many different ways. So you could actually reach out to the experts in the area of your interest and find out what they would like and maybe go from there. But yeah, I think Priya, you were absolutely right. And of course, the process of if you're a citizen, it should be easier. So I don't know where you are, but I think reaching out and is like the panelists said, ask. You're not going to lose anything. So go ask and they'll be able to let you know. Even if it is an HR question, just email them or call them. I think you should be able to get your answers.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So I can answer this question about AP classes. I would definitely recommend like taking classes for your STEM majors, obviously really helpful. But if you can, also try to take some classes like English and history, and government and things like that, because most schools will require you to take some classes like that. And if you have them done through the APs, then you can get started early on the engineering stuff whenever you get to school. So I would highly recommend doing some of those APs and knocking them out the way in high school.
Yeah, I would too. And I'd say like an easy rule to go by is if you're taking a class and you can immediately substitute it out for the same class, but as an AP instead of like as an honors or regular class, take it as an AP. Obviously, like be careful about overloading yourself. I took 8 APs my senior year, which was not a fun time, but like you like get through it. So like obviously like take classes that you're interested in. But I'd say like for me at least, taking 2 AP science classes, so I took AP Physics C and then AP Physics and AP Chem. That was enough to satisfy all my Gen Ed chem requirements, which means that I didn't have to take general chemistry in college, which I've never been more thankful for in my life. So I would highly recommend taking AP science classes in high school.
Yeah, especially your first year as I'm registering for classes. It really helps that I took AP classes, especially for like English, which has nothing to do with my major. So if I got AP English out of the way in high school, then I don't have to take English ever again.
Yeah, and for those of you who are able to take multi or linear in high school, which is after Calc BC, for a lot of colleges, if you take it at like a community college and get community college credit, you can skip out of multi and linear in college as well. And if you're not interested in going into math, that typically makes sense because for me at least, after I finished multi and linear, I don't have to take any more math classes. So for me, getting that out of the way was helpful.
So I think most of the schools have dual credit programs with the common community colleges, right? So most of the high schools should have your dual credit program. So I think that's a good point, Ratan. You should go check that. So
if you have some questions later on, we can get the context of the, today whoever answered, could we have their context? So
yeah, for sure. I can drop my email in the chat as well if y'all want to. Yeah, and feel free to email me if you guys have any questions. But yeah, I'll try my best to respond. But summertime is very busy, so.
Yeah, same here. Just to restate it again, I'm a double major in comp sci and economics at Tulane. So if you have any questions about either of those fields of study or Tulane in general, then just shoot me an email and I'll be happy to help.
I think just about thanks for all the panelists, right? They've been for reaching out and being patient with questions.
Yeah. Actually, such a valuable guidance and the amount of information you shared. I think it's so very helpful. So you all have such rich background, such rich experience and a variety of experience. I think it's so valuable. I know I have a rising ninth grader. So this is such an awesome platform and loved what you guys have to present and share with us.
I learned some things.
Yeah, Sasha is saying thank you too. So she learned a lot of stuff that sets it up. But again, thanks the Ekam team for hosting this. I think it's really good, and I think very helpful for a lot of kids and parents alike, just trying to get their feel around the high school and how things are. I mean, there are lots of new things that we came across, so definitely some follow-up questions. Thanks.